We're talking about entertainment coming to the track. We've had a couple of cool things today. We just had the announcement that Puma just made about becoming an F1 sponsor themselves. I don't know if you guys saw, it's about 3 weeks ago now. Paramount Plus had some press out there about becoming an F1 sponsor. And for those of you that were here when David talked earlier, he talked about what they evaluate when they're bringing new sponsors on, and they really want to bring someone on that can help tell a story. And what that story is, we're going to talk about today. So first, congratulations on the F1 sponsorship. I think we would love to hear the backstory and how this entire deal kind of came together.
Sure. Hi, everybody. It's so distracting when it's that gorgeous outside, and I'm sorry that you have to listen to the backstory of this. But so nice to speak to everyone. Paramount Plus kind of came on track for Formula One in an exciting way, which is we are less than 24 months old in the United States and probably less than 6 months old around the world, but we respectfully saw our fan base catching on like fire with shows like Yellowstone, Strange New World, Star Trek, Halo, Yellow Jackets. And we found that as we were kind of penetrating the cultural zeitgeist with our IP, there was a lot of overlap with what we found the F1 audience to be, that person that comes to track, not just the classic person that has known everything about this sport and knows what an engine sounds like from 100 miles away, but those that were coming new to track actually happened to be our fans. So we did a little bit of a test with those guys at 4 races last year, and then we came in 3x to do a larger official partner deal this year with the support of F1 and, of course, our colleagues at CAA Sports.
Oh, that's great. So I'm sure before that decision was made after the events last year, a ton of research went into it, a ton of evaluation. So talk a little bit more about that overlap of the audiences. David talked earlier about how the really the core audience of F1 has really been a 50-year-old male up until this point, and that they're doing their best to try to diversify that. So how does something like Paramount Plus come into play with the diversification of the audience?
Totally. So how do you it's a 50-year-old gentleman who, like I said, knows what every engine sounds like, and he's a purist, right? He knows everything about the sport. But then, how do you make it warm and welcoming to people that are new to both the sport, the league, and the service, right? And that's kind of how we tried to overlap. And I think it is all of us as brand marketers were forced to do a lot of sweet science and a lot of math about everything that we buy and why did you pick this color and why this particular show. And we did a lot of work with our partners, Wavemaker notably, among others around the world, to say there's something there that someone who loves F1 loves the feeling of a steering wheel, who probably also is a gamer and grew up like with the simulation gaming, who probably played Halo, which is now a series on Paramount Plus. And as we kind of dug deeper and deeper into those audience segmentation targets, we found that our demo was actually the youngest on track, right? The average Rolex person that can finally afford to buy that first watch probably is a little bit older, but it you can get a lot more people with a $10 subscription to Paramount Plus. And that's what we found is we were bringing younger people to the track, and a lot of our younger viewers and fans were also watching Formula One for the first time.
That's great. So you mentioned 2 years old in the
Yeah.
US, 6 months old internationally. Coming in as a new challenger brand, there must have been extensive planning and ideation on what that activation was going to look like at the track. So walk us through a little bit about what you guys are going to be doing from an experiential standpoint, from a and then around that as well to really help bring the sponsorship to life.
For sure. I think as brand marketers, logo placement, brand placement is so hard, and especially when you're new, right? For Paramount, and speaking honestly, this is a brand that you probably grew up with, and you saw it at the beginning of Titanic, right, in the movie Paramount, or if you saw Mission Impossible, and now you have Paramount Plus. So what is that? Wait, are you guys a movie company? Wait, I thought I also saw you on Paramount Network that has Yellowstone, so we had almost brand confusion on our side, which I hope everybody can relate to when you want to get your message down right. But then also, how do we appear in a sport, in a league where Rolex, 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 Qatar, 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 right? They live everywhere on the brand. And there's a ubiquity to that. So the challenge that we did, and I would love to say with you, later, Rob, for you to analyze whether we did the right thing, is to live in non-traditional spaces. So our goal is not to be where everyone else is, but to be one of none where no one else is. So you will find Paramount in the cool down room. So for those of you that watch Formula One, you'll know the cool down room is where first, second, and third drivers, they take their helmets off, they go to get weighed. And as they're sitting and watching that race back for the first time, there is a Paramount monitor behind them that is branded with our logo and potentially has the trailer running or has the logo lockup of our newest IP. Again, a unique space, never been done before, not competing with any of the other partners or disrespecting their real estate on the track, but finding our own kind of swim lane of where we belong. You'll also see Paramount in non-traditional places in the pit lane. So think about us. I think this weekend in Miami, we're going to be the pit lane LED columns that are separating garages, right? So whether I haven't been to track yet, but if it's Williams separated by Ferrari, separated by X, there are these beautiful columns. Never been done before, never utilized. That for an entertainment company, we would love to do LED because it's going to be the Star Trek Enterprise that, like, let's say lands, or we have Captain Kirk or these characters that come to life. Again, our own swim lane, not muddying the waters with anybody that's more of a legacy or traditional brand, and appearing in these non-traditional spaces. Please, or the Halo actual Warthog vehicle for fellow dorks that have played the game, to be on track. And that is exactly the kind of fun that we're planning at fan zones around the world. So how do people get to look and feel and touch the Paramount brand through the lens of IP, but also funneling back into the spirit of F1?
Cool. And then I guess outside of that, outside of the experiential stuff at the track, is there other mediums or other omni-channel programs that you've put together kind of surrounding this, influencers, things like that?
For sure. We're talking about that right now. And I think Monday. About how to sketch out what a bespoke digital plan might look like in terms of branded content, social content, and almost shoulder content. I think that we can all agree that F1 owns that race weekend and you're obsessed. Well, what happens on a Tuesday to Thursday, right? Like, or what happens on the Tuesday to Thursday after it? Brand animators is what happens. That's very true. So we're thinking about, what does shoulder content look like? What does the brand ambassador pathway look like? We also have the live event strategy on the Paramount side globally, which is we have the VMAs, we have the European Music Awards, Video Music Awards, Movie Awards, Kids Choice Awards, where there's live event strategy that actually lives when the season is dark. So potentially we bring our talent to track, but potentially their talent on the red carpet.
Great. I think that's so there's a lot of brands here. What would you say to brands, especially challenger brands, that are looking to make a big splash, get into sponsorships of this magnitude? Is there, tips, some advice?
How much have we all cried individually? When no
Maybe
one
give
is
an insight, some
yeah,
insight into the green room that
Of
you guys had on your
course.
end.
Of course. I think as all of us as challenger brands, I don't think that anyone is not a challenger brand. You can never stay number one for long. You always got to hustle like you're number 2, 3, and 10, right? So it's like, what is your authentic place in this space, right? That was our North Star every time, because we're not broadcasting the races. Those amazing rights already belong to, the commercial partners that have paid so much money to do that, right? And we have utmost respect for our partners. They also happen to be our partners in the other 55 countries around the world that we work with, right? In terms of JVs and partnerships and things like that. So I would say, for any challenger brand, AKA brand, I would say, what is your authentic voice in this space and why do you belong? And if you got to work 10 times hard to figure out why you belong, then you were not invited at that party to begin with, right? So we felt like, why do we belong? We belong because the consumer's already here. We belong because the Halo viewer was the gamer who's already watching it on track. We belong because if you love the Dutton family, or going through the rabbit hole of their life in 1883 and 1923, if anybody's seen those shows, you're actually on track. You're watching this, or particularly in the United States, for whom F1 is growing and Paramount Plus is doing so well in. How do we tap into that cultural zeitgeist, but in a way that you don't, where we belong, not throwing money at a problem, right? You're going to get a lot of people that throw you like these books of sponsorships. We start at this number. You get this. Or like baking a cake, like, oh, you can pick your topping of, like, you can put this, and this is the frosting, and that's not how we wanted to do any kind of business with Formula One, and we respected that they were extraordinary partners in doing the same. because hopefully they too recognize that we were a different brand that was coming on track versus the legacy brands.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. So anything else you want to share about F1 before we move into one question outside of that?
Sure. I'm so proud of the people, the places that they go. Like, this is just a love letter to this sport. For those of us that are kind of new and newish to come, as event people, we plan one event like 10 months out. These people are traveling 38 weeks a year in different countries and continents to put on what they call a Super Bowl a week and then walking away, break and build, break and build. So I have so much respect for the invisible part of F1, the people that break that stuff down, the people that put up the LED bridges and the walls and stuff like that, because I think the drivers are obviously the gloss. That's why we come. But that small army that moves city to city, I mean, I have utmost respect for that, seeing it up close and personal.
Yeah, I mean that's and similar with F1. You look at the PGA Tour, things like that are building, breaking down every week. It's a pretty impressive process to take a look at. So outside of the partnership for a quick second, let's talk about Paramount Plus and what's exciting on the forefront for you guys. What kind of new shows or even new genres are you guys looking to launch in this year that everyone here who, if you don't have a subscription, make sure you sign up, right? Please.
I'm gonna count how many
Grow the
subscriptions
business.
come out of this week. It was only we just met 18 days ago. Give me some time to.
Listen, and anyone that signs up this week, we can attest it to the F1 sponsorship. So let's make sure we do that. But yeah, so what's coming down the pike?
For sure. I think what's really interesting and as brands is we launched this brand in the middle of a pandemic. And I can never, that's the PTSD that you live through, right? Like that we all did, is when the world is falling apart and we're all at home and we're watching TV, we got to launch a streaming product to reach the whole world while they're at home. So can I buy out of home? There is no out of home. Can I buy like a subway placement in New York City or do a Leicester Square takeover in London? There is no outside, right? So how do you bring the world of entertainment to people that are already inside? So I think our point of pride was we said we had a mountain of entertainment for everyone. That's the tagline, is a mountain of entertainment. And I believe that just being a kid out of New York City, like to add to anybody's monthly bills is an indulgence. You're asking for someone. Money is tight. People are struggling, not here, but around the world. We see that on the global side, right? And now, as a family or struggle, student loans, medical loans, whatever you got, now I'm going to add another service. What is the utility that you're serving to make me spend more money every day? So, what we found is by keeping an aggressive price point, we showed the family, the couple, the single person living in a city or people living out in different parts of the world, that for X dollars, you could get the best in Nickelodeon. So your kids and family are taken care of. You get premium content that comes through the world of Paramount, which is, like I said, Yellowstone, 1883. These are expensive shows to film. This is not a CGI show. Like every horse you see is real. Every cowboy hat you see is real. But we're saying we brought cinematic storytelling. We're bringing first to market movies back on the service, whether it's Top Gun. So okay, you didn't watch Top Gun in the movie theater. That's fine. Wait a minute. You get to watch it at home and watch Paramount Plus. So you get the best of movies, and then you get the best of premium content. So our goal was to always demonstrate service, value, and quality, because cheap doesn't have to mean bad quality. It means we know what you're going through. We know what you're dealing with around the world, because our remit is global, right? So, and how do we deliver service for everyone? So inside of that, I'm really excited of the new season of 1923 coming out. If anybody has seen that show, we're really, really excited about that. And of course, Mission in the family, Mission Impossible, later this summer. If you guys have seen that trailer.
Great.
Same.
Well, that's all the questions we had. I know we have a few minutes left, so we wanted to open it up to some questions from the audience.
Riveting. Great question. We lead in service of the IP that comes from a legendary house. So our DNA is Paramount made The Godfather. Paramount made Titanic. Paramount made these iconic movies. So we got chops. So we don't necessarily have to buy content. We've been making content, quality content. So it's always anchored in Paramount Mountain, right? That mountain. But then serving the fandom through bespoke IP, right? So if we're going to respect the Star Trek person or the Star Trek universe person, and we're at San Diego Comic-Con, for example, we go all in on the IP, and the federal logo is lower to the bottom, because that Star Trek person cares less about the mountain and more about how we're respecting his IP. But if you're new to the service and say you're coming in because you loved Yellowstone, or you love Tulsa King with Sylvester Stallone, or you love his daughters who are, have their own reality show now, then you'll have federal over IP because that has a lesser known history, if that makes sense.
Anyone else?
Okay.
You good?
Awesome.
Oh, good.
Oh, yeah. I think it's not everybody's struggling with what to watch where, right? We don't even know when it's on or where it's located. That's why we have to work harder, and then now multiply that by 55 countries, right? And then localization in maybe 72 languages. Yellow jackets, by the way, is an American word for a hornet. Look, what does that mean around the world? Nothing. Yellow jacket. We had to do literally yellow jacket testing because nobody understood it, but it was worth not changing the title for the IP. So what we're trying to do with that federal and IP branding is say, this content lives only here. And when it doesn't, we share the distinction with other partners. Let's say available Paramount Plus, Sky Plus, Showtime, or whatever that is. But we're hoping that we can do better and harder work on the digital and social front for that sticky fandom that's already there, and coming back for more Yellow Jackets coverage or things like that to kind of know where they are. But it's a big undertaking on the local level in local language to get people to know where the content lives. That's a struggle throughout throughout the industry.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate it. Best of luck with the new sponsorship.